evening. My name is Carol Rosenhauer, and tonight I'm sitting down with my colleague, Jessica Benjamin. She contributed a great deal to the theory of intersubjectivity and thirdness and mutual recognition. And tonight we're just going to talk to her some about her theory, where it came from, what influenced her, and where she sees it as an important part of the field of psychology. Good evening, Jessica.
Good evening. Good to be here.
Would you like to give us just a little bit of information up front about how you got interested in the idea of intersubjectivity?
Definitely. Ever since I was a young girl, I was interested in kind of the political realm and how feminism interacted with just every part of the world. In undergraduate, I studied sociology and critical theory, and time again, feminism and the woman's place in the world and in all kinds of interactions came to be. And I actually studied over in Europe. When I came back to America and started my graduate program, I studied psychoanalysis. I started to read a lot of Freud, and what I really noticed was that his theory really interacted, was very much influenced by patriarchy, and his theory really, as the psychoanalyst, treated the patient as an object. And so it was the mutuality, the relational piece of that was really missing. And so that kind of started my work towards seeing the therapist and the client and just two people as subjects. Yeah.
That reminds me a lot of Freud's Oedipal father and the way that he set it up so that the father needed to come in and break up the mother-child dyad.
This idea has been of object-subject has started a lot in childhood, and it does start with the father beginning to treat the mother and the child as object. And from that, seeing that in development and also in a larger place of psychoanalysis, I really desired to see the woman as subject, to see the subjectivity of the woman. And that began when I started to work with a strange situation as a young student, and I was also pregnant during that time. So the whole idea of the mother-child dyad and how the mother interacted with the child as if the child was a subject and is a subject, and the mother as well. And so that really begins to help have a healthy development where the other is viewed as a subject, as another person with their own subjective reality that they can then relate. And then that later transfers into the therapist-client relationship. As the mother interacts with her child, and she remains differentiated, so her subjective experience does not intrude on or overpower the child's experience. So she stays differentiated in hers, then the child begins to realize that their experience is different than their mother's.
Okay.
And so they begin to understand that what they're experiencing is valid, but it's different than the mother that they're interacting with. And then what's interesting is as the mother and child interact, and again, continually remember or realize their subjective realities, the mother also begins to evolve into her subjective reality, into her differentiated self. And then it is a co-created thing that they continually experience with each other.
All right, I really like that. That makes a lot of sense. It seems amazing to think of the mother not as acting on the child as an object, but relating subject to subject, and both of them influencing the other. Neither one of them is being acted upon, but both are acting with the other to further their own development. The mother's developing, the child is developing. That seems really cool. Mm-hmm. My question with that would be, how do you deal with the fact that it's still an asymmetrical relationship? It's still an infant and a grown adult.
Yeah. So as the mother and the child are interacting, the mother bears more responsibility because she at times needs to contain the experience of the child, the emotions, the things that they cannot hold and bear on their own. She helps contain that, and in that, of course, she remains differentiated, and she's working to help the child develop their own differentiation within that, but she's containing that for the child, and so she's bearing more responsibility.
Okay, that helps me understand a lot more where you're coming from. So could you say a little bit more about when we have two parties, a mother and a child, relating subjectively, intersubjectively with one another, what happens next? How do you see that relationship playing out?
So as any two people really sit together and treat each other like subjects and treat themselves like subjects, differentiated beings, what happens then in that relationship and kind of just the air of that interaction is what I call thirdness. Another way to think of that is the philosopher Martin Buber's idea of the in-between.
Okay.
And that kind of holds together the two people's subjectiveness, and they continue to interact with each other in that way.
And so that's how they create a relationship.
Yes.
Both acting on the relationship, both acting on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thank you so much, Jessica. That's all the time we have, but I really appreciate you sitting down with me.